You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Man, I love Dr. Pepper. I don't claim to understand it. I'm not that arrogant. What an enigma that drink is. I drink it every night. I couldn't tell you what flavour it is. It's a mystery to have it in my mouth with all my senses shut off. I'll be like, it tastes like a sexy battery. Are you happy? It's like a sexy battery, the sexiest battery I ever did taste. The can says mixed fruit flavour. How stupid do they think we are? I wasn't born yesterday. I know what fruit tastes like. I've heard fruit before. Never sent the fruit salad back because it was too Dr. Peppery. That is a lie I have. It's really funny. I send most food backs to Dr. Peppery just to see how they bring it back and what they change.
For clarification, Kyle, that guy doesn't like Dr. Pepper, right? I'm hoping.
I'm not sure, but I knew it fit the show team.
So. It did. So for those of you who don't know, and again, welcome to another episode of I Must Ask You a Question with Jen and James. It's where we talk shop from a publishing standpoint and, of course, from a comic shop standpoint. And for those of you who've been following the show and know me, I'm not a big fan of Dr. Pepper, and it's become a thing with a lot of the creators and fans out there. So I get constantly razzed about it. But there's some of you who agree that it is vile, it is awful, and it is dangerous. But it seems like that comedian would agree with me. So I might try his thing about sending stuff back and be like, this is too Dr. Peppery. Just creating the adjective of where it's just disgusting. So how you doing this morning, Miss Jen?
It's been okay. So there's been this weird trend for a while that I think it's because, DC releases Tuesdays and then everyone else releases on Wednesdays, and people are busy working right now, that I've been seeing people move away from Wednesday. And I start seeing them on I see them honestly picking up their new books on the weekend or Mondays, which is truly bizarre to me. But today actually feels like New Comic Book Day. People are actually here looking for specific comic books. And I kind of knew that might happen because it really was a big release week this week. It was a bunch of stuff that was.
Oh, what stuff? I know we had one. We have a big one I'm real excited about called We Wicked Ones #1 that came out today with a beautiful David Mack cover. What else came out today? Anything?
The things that people are buzzing about were the new Exo Man of War Unconquered. Liam Sharp art off the charts and
he's amazing,
writing your butt off. And then they snuck in a variant. Everyone's known about it, so it's not the secret. So I don't know why people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was coming out. I didn't know to add it to my pull box. There's a Batman B cover that is like a movie homage to Purple Rain. And of course, the internet, now is like, oh, that's the hot book. And we ordered, one.
Okay. You're like, son of a gun. And that's not the first time that's not the first time they've done a Purple Rain homage. I know they've done it before. I think I've seen it before.
DC
like Batman too. Yeah. Like a whole thing going where it was all homage covers. But yeah, that seems to be the hot books right lately is these I noticed on some of the websites about like an Eminem Spider-Man cover and I'll take a lot of musicians and adding them in. And I also saw a trend where Mickey Mouse on any Marvel cover seems to be, the new jam. It's very fascinating. We have, speaking of the speculation, we have 3 of our titles that are really pretty deep in the whole multimedia thing, and they don't let us announce, and it's so frustrating. So so frustrating. And I don't understand why they don't allow us to well, I do, is a lot of these companies, because if you announce it and then it doesn't get made, it looks bad on them.
Yeah, it makes them look like they couldn't like cross finish line.
Yeah. But
I know that yesterday Chispa put out the trailer for the Black Demon
yes,
Tale. Got
Hector,
some sharks.
the Hector, the co-publisher of Chispa, he just sent it to me today. I haven't had a chance. I've been running around like a chicken without a head this morning, doing all kinds of stuff. And yeah, he sent me the trailer to it with Josh Lucas. That's going to be a big book for us. We have it's called Black Demon Tales, and the movie is called Black Demon, and they envision it to be this horror franchise, but it's actual real lore, Inca lore, about this gigantic shark. And the book that we're releasing is like told, there's like a narrator, almost like a Tales from the Crypt Keeper, who tells like it's like a little anthology with short stories in it about people remembering like the Black Demon, like sightings of the Black Demon, which is the name of this shark that is giant like Jaws. And from what I understand is Jaws was loosely based off of this lore. You know, they took a couple different stories. So this is the actual, you know, Mexican lore behind the shark, done by Mucho Mas, which is a Mexican Spanish company. So they envision it to be like horror franchise that looks, I think it's going to be incredible. But we have some amazing covers that we have coming out for that. Joe Picardo, who I think is comics' next big thing as far as interiors and cover work. He has this just incredible. We turned it into our cover A. We came in like 2 weeks, you know, before final order cutoff. I don't know if you've seen it, Jen, but it's got like this gigantic, it's like a guy floating in this open shark mouth.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant.
Isn't it amazing? So we changed it at the last minute because like this needs to be cover A. So a lot of people might have the older cover. It's not like the older one was bad. It looked like a very, like almost like an homage to Jaws. But this one with Joe Picardo, we wanted everybody to have it because it's that good. So yeah, that comes out 2 weeks before the movie. I think the movie comes out April 27th. Josh Lucas is starring in it. He was, as the women here at HQ say, he was in Sweet Home Alabama. Apparently, he was the love interest of Reese Witherspoon. So they remember that. But he was also, he plays a younger Kevin Costner in Yellowstone. But he's a great actor. You've probably seen him in many, many different things where he wasn't the lead, but he was one of the supporting cast, and he's great. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a huge thing for us. We also have Codename Ric Flair, which is coming out just in time for wrestling season. And I don't know if you saw it, but through Richard's connection, we were able to get a Dave Dorman cover.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, that was our one in one.
One of the 4?
What was that?
Is it one of the 4 that?
No, we made it an incentive. It's going to be a metal cover. It's a 1 in 100 variant of it. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a homage to James Bond, because the whole concept is Ric Flair using his wrestling heel persona actually could get into places back in the 80s and 90s when he was the champion. He was actually a secret agent. So that's kind of the concept behind that one. But yeah, it's an homage to a I can't remember the name of the James Bond one, but it's an amazing cover. And just to say that we've had a Dave Dorman cover who's done so much amazing work. He did the Dark Empire covers for Dark Horse back in the days. And yeah, it's real exciting time. We have another one that I don't think a lot of people know about. It's called Tales of Volcania. Have I told you about this one?
Tales of Volcania.
So Volcania,
it's out now, right?
It's coming out in April. At the end of April. It's already been on FOC, but it's one of Europe's biggest role-playing games. It's done by a company called Gear Games. They've raised, I think, hundreds of thousands of dollars on crowdfunding. And these are comics based on, it's the writers of the RPG, and it's based on that world called Volcania. So I think there's a huge crossover audience there, especially from the European standpoint. I know they just broke into the US market, but it's like one of the fastest growing RPGs in all of Europe. Again, it's called Volcania, VU, like Vulcan, and then IA. So that's a pretty big April for us, March, April. We kind of plan it that year. I wanted to ask you a question, and
sure.
We've done it the
past. First, I want to acknowledge some people hanging out.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Dale, hello. Michael,
hello,
Michael wants to know: is there going to be a booth at C2E2?
No, unfortunately not. We've just as far as convention presence this year, we went really big last year, and we've kind of scaled back a bit. We're going to a lot of the mid shows through Andrea. And so crazy. Do you know C2E2 and MegaCon's happening at the same weekend? Which is very unfortunate. Wow. Yeah, they're both very big conventions that a lot of people, so it's a lot of split time next week. But no, unfortunately, we'll not be there. We'll have some Scout presence, though. Like By the Horns creators are going to be there. I know that. Together, the writer and the artist, Marcuson and Jason, and a whole bunch of other Scout guys and gals are going to be there. So I would definitely find out or check out Artist Alley. And we'll have plenty of coverage. What was the other? Oh, Dale was in there.
I was going to say hi to Thomas and hi to Seth. Seth gives you lots of
Seth, what's up, buddy?
All right, what was the question? Sorry.
The question that I was going to have is that, and I don't know if this is true or not, and we were just doing it, we usually kind of scale back based on, I just looked at the order numbers over the past 4 years. And as a team, we just scale back for November, December, January, February, and then really built up heavier for March, April, May, June, and July and August, as far as releases go. Is that true? Like, does it make sense to scale back in the winter months? Or from a comic shop point of view, I swear we've heard that from comic shops.
Yeah, it helps a little bit because just like everyone else on the planet, January and February, you're paying for your December bills. And everyone's starting to put together their tax money. Because I don't know, here's a peek behind the curtain. Did you know that comic book shops, just like other businesses, have to pay a pretty big tax load at the beginning of the year? If we pay it by the end of January, it's only marginally horrible. And if you wait longer than that, it gets larger and larger. So it's based on your holdings. So if you've they come in and they do like an assessment of what you have as holdings for stock, and
you do inventory based accounting, yes.
Your inventory, your fixtures and all that kind of stuff, and they value it, and then you pay a tax load based on that. Depends probably on what state you're in. It might be different, but so there's a lot of shops that or businesses that you think they probably are flush with money because of Christmas, but really what's happened is they've just kind of like broken back to even, and then they have a big tax load that's due. So if if you think you're going to help your comic book store by giving them some breathing space in January and February as a customer, don't go in there and do your normal spending. It helps a lot to have regular
income. That makes sense from our publishers to give them more reason to come in the store by giving more titles. So maybe we had it backwards. I don't know. We're probably going to try it differently come next year. We just
steady for us is the best, honestly.
Eddie wins race.
Yeah, if there's if a book comes out once a quarter or every other month or once a month, if a customer can get used to that pacing, it does better. Things that disappear for a long time and there's a big gap between issues usually means customers wander away from them because they then find a new favorite thing because they like to read every week. So that's kind of what we've seen. It's okay to pull back a little bit, but not to nothing during those months because, you have to have enough on the rack to make a go of every month for rent and employees and all the rest of the bills. So,
no, I guess it was more for series launches than we would, individual. Just do you launch a big series at the beginning of the year when it's I think we're going to try it and just like you said, just kind of keep it steady instead of fluctuating. We were trying to go with the mark, but it makes sense from our point of view too, as far as paying bills and all that same stuff that you said. It just,
you have to have regular money too.
Yeah, we do too. And yeah, it's been a treat. I never expected to be on this end of the business. I say it all the time. It's I got in here to create comics and to help run a publishing company. I mean, that was never the intention. And it's fun and it's stressful, very stressful at times. That's for sure. But I love
the peek behind the curtain. Honestly, it's we've learned a lot from each other. Honestly,
I think so.
It's back in the day when there wasn't a lot of these kinds of abilities to just Zoom to each other or industry meetings and stuff. I don't know how really publishers and retailers interacted with each other to know what worked and didn't work. Maybe everyone just was winging it.
I think you're probably right. It was just a winging thing. And it was a totally different time too, when it was, the print numbers were just so huge, millions in some cases. But of course, the price per unit was significantly lower. It's a fascinating industry. Again, coming from other business, sales industry, like being a financial advisor, and having experience in retail as well, just through investments that I've done in the past. Like comics is a very interesting market, and people I don't think quite realize the upheaval that's happened in the past 3-4 years. Having that one distributor market for so long, and then it going to multiple, and then the pandemic right when it happened. I mean, I really want to think the pandemic kind of caused that multi-distribution system. I don't think it would have happened otherwise, or if it would have, it ripped off the Band-Aid quickly, I think.
It did.
And
then
it's
I thought I
fascinating.
remembered you saying that when you went to your the two distributor model for you guys, that you actually did see an increase in numbers.
Oh, it's huge. Our increased, it doubled. When we went from Diamond to Lunar, our sales doubled. So they've since then, but here's the difference is we were the second comic book publisher on Lunar. It was us in DC.
Yep.
So there wasn't, and I think now they have like 40, 45. So competition, we're not as highlighted as we were before, because again, and by the way, that's healthy for the industry. See that, I do think delays. That's the one thing I've always learned and knew before getting on this side of the business, and I know it more so even now, is a delay, especially if you're an independent comic company, could kill a book. And what was so frustrating about last year is that the majority of those delays were just there was no other way to do it. Yeah. Honestly, we did find a printer they were really, amazing about hitting deadlines, right? But when the cost is 30 to 40% more, and you're already dealing with slim margins, what do? You have to make those tough decisions. Am I frozen?
Your images, but we can still hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
I got resting mad face on right now. That's
what it looks
like. Promise, guys and gals, I'm laughing. But no, it was just, I think one thing that there's been some definitely interesting scenarios this year. I've almost become obsessed with trying to figure out the model. And I do feel like we have a marketing model now on what we do for when we initially sign a title, where it's almost like plug and play, right? And I'll turn my camera off and on. Nope. Still Angry James. But anyways, it's a fascinating, I've seen it in my brokerage business for a long time. You take companies like Apple, right? They were a failing company because they were in the PC industry, personal computer, and Microsoft and IBM were absolutely crushing them. It wasn't until they created the iPod that they shifted their business model and became one of, if not the biggest company in the world.
Yeah. Thinking about that, and then like Netflix, when they went from being like Redbox people sending you a disc in the mail to like making original content like no one's business.
And they wanted to merge. They actively sought after Blockbuster about having Blockbuster purchase them, and Blockbuster was like, no thanks. And then they got into the game way too late. And that's the irony, is that Netflix owns the Blockbuster name.
That's awesome.
Isn't that awesome? And they did that Blockbuster sitcom show that just released it about the last Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
I would skip it, everybody. I watched like 4 episodes. It was pretty bad. Pretty bad. I love the concept. Not so great on the execution, but
the documentary was awesome. The last.
Oh, I love that documentary. I'm a sucker for documentaries. I love them so much. But yeah. Well, the bottom line, another one not so known company. Have you heard of Corning Glassworks?
I have heard of Corning. I have some Corningware.
Yes, that's where they came from. But of course, they've had multiple things, multiple different products that they sell. And back when internet was first coming around, they were laying fiber optic cables, because that was how all the internet was getting. And they spent, billions of dollars running fiber optic cable. By the time they finished, fiber optics were obsolete. Everything was cloud-based, satellite-based. So they diverted. And what they had, I believe since the 60s, they had this patent on bulletproof glass. And it wasn't a big, line item on the revenue sheet or the balance sheet. And, they would get like the president for bulletproof glass limos, the military. It was steady Eddie. But guess what? They use Gorilla Glass for all tablets and phones now.
Mhm.
And it completely reestablished the company. And the reason why I'm saying that is like, that's what we've kind of been able to do to get through. Like last year was not an amazing year for a lot of people.
Nope.
I think it was even harder. It was way harder than the pandemic. We actually gained market share in the pandemic. When you can't print with paper shortages and the cost of things going up, and then you have inflation where people are cutting back, all happening at the same time. And with a wide variety of other natural disasters as we experienced and our printer experienced, the fact that we adapted to the market by, creating the press works, creating new products, coming up with like clever ideas in marketing, those are the best companies. It doesn't matter what industries. And I would say the same is probably for comic shops. Like, look what you did, Jen, in the pandemic when you couldn't open your doors. You created this whole thing that we're on. The experience is all about, where you guys were selling directly to your consumer base, via these feeds, and you had to adapt to the environment.
Yeah,
Did you
weirdly,
start
we already had it in place. Because
Did
if
you have
we started in January. If we hadn't started in January, we wouldn't have been ready in March when everything fell apart. So
Wow.
it was I would like to say it's some kind of like, I looked forward and saw what was coming, but there's no way. I just really wanted to have another way to reach out to the general audience about comic books and have them fall in love with local comic shops, even if they didn't have one near them. So
do you feel like any other things that you had to do to adapt to help bring people to your store, the traffic? Like, what is it, marketing? Like, what have been some, other than, doing live broadcasts from the store, what other things have you found successful, or what are some of the things that you're going to be implementing this year to try to, either improve a revenue stream or create a new one?
What we're seeing right now is that as much as people say social media is a waste of time, it is really where this next generation lives. And they live on very specific social media. Like they're a TikTok generation or an Instagram generation. So my younger crew is focusing in on trying to make the content that is interesting to them. Because we want this next generation to fall in love with, print media that has pictures called comic books. So, and since both TikTok and Instagram are image driven, we feel like they're probably would love what we're offering. So we're trying to reach them and educate them. I see a lot of other retailers doing really creative stuff on there. And it's all like just like any other commercial or anything else, the way to know you're successful is if it actually results in people interacting with you or coming in. And so we're still working on seeing how that is working out. But it's just also a good thing to just like keep in touch with everybody, because we're still feeling pretty isolated, I think, people in general. Yep. So this one gives people that are still, wanting to be careful and stay home, gives them a way to feel healthy, right? To interact and have community.
I think that's the biggest thing that the comic store offers is community. Just creating that strong sense of community with your customer base. And it's awesome. That's where, again, that's the good parts of social media. There's so many bad, but there's some very good ones too. And yeah, I think that's the smart play. One thing that's been really echoing in my mind since our last week's show was your update on Comics Pro. And the plan is to go next year. We were unfortunately not able to make it this year just due with conflicting schedules with upper management. But I'm just going to tell you, I'm really going to heed to your advice where you're like, it shouldn't be about a sales pitch. It should be about like kind of what we do a little bit here. So I think that's what I'm going to suggest to the team, is that we really just give an update on our business, and I can be like, hey, we have some great stuff, and maybe do like, I'm talking like 3 minutes, even if that, or it's just like, here's the books that we have coming out. We're strong about this. This is how it's going to bring you new customers. because that's what you ultimately want as a comic store, is a new customers. And that's what we're hoping when I mentioned those 3 books today, The Black Demon,
Sure.
Codename Ric Flair, and Tales of Volcania. That has the potential to get new customers. Ric Flair, that's the wrestling. I still think the bridge has not been fully built between the wrestling industry and the comic industry because they're so parallel. And hopefully this is one, I guess, a piece of that bridge. But you can possibly bring in brand new people who love wrestling and haven't done comics. Tales of Volcania, RPG people who love that world, possibly going to a comic store for the first time. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Black Demon, a Latin-based company making a Latin-based film for on sharks, killer sharks. Everyone loves those. So that's, I think what I want to focus on is how just going forward at those meetings is to just kind of give them an update on us and what we can do to help sell comics for you.
And even focus on having the people that show up, help them get to know you, like your actual staff. Like this is the staff member. I hate Dr. Pepper. You can talk to me about my expertise is in finance, just so that when we're thinking about, when I'm ordering books, I'm like, it's that company that's really cool that has these people that have these backgrounds that I have something in common with. Then it really helps cement in our brains who a company is, right? Or reviewing for the previews world information isn't helpful in those situations. It's just like, wow, this is time wasted for them.
So just to let you know what one of my plans that I'm doing, and actually everybody can listen and hear, again, this is behind the curtain. So one of the things, my background is sales, and it's what my day job, but my other job, because they're both day jobs, is I, try to get people to trust me to help guide them with their financial futures. It's pretty, I value that. That's very, very important. I've been doing it for over 20 years now. And I have people coming into my office who represent products, like investment products. And you have ones that be like, you should sell this to your client. And they spew out numbers. They spew out all this other stuff. And a lot of times it's boring. It's necessary. But the best, they call them wholesalers. And the best wholesalers are people that actually come in and say, hey, listen, I want you to get, because of course I'd like to sell their product all day long, because that means I'm having people who are wanting to invest with me. So the best ones are the ones that are like, listen, I want to help you get new clients. Here's ideas and marketing tools on getting new clients. And then hopefully you'll decide to invest with me because of this, in my product, because it offers this, this, and this, and this.
Sure.
So I want to take that same approach and provide it to comic stores. So what we're doing is I'm going to start doing it, but I want to train a scout sales team where we actually, I think there's like 3,000 comic stores in the continental US, and I have a list. We've dealt with a lot of them one way or another, whether it's through a distributor or whether it's direct, is to reach out to them and just ask them some questions. And I know it's a little bit difficult because you might get staff members who aren't like scenarios, but the idea
are your boots on the ground people. Those are the people that are doing the day to day. Those are super helpful to know from.
So the idea is to basically do some bullet points with some questions, right? It's like, what type of store are you? Are you a store that just focuses on trades? Or are you a collector store that, hey, my wall's covered with CGC? And then based on the answers, what welcome pack that we send them? Because I want them to get to know us a little bit. And of course, I want to make it easier for you to sell books. So, hey, I know it's not easy to get certain things from distributors in a timely manner if there's a hot book, but here's your own code. Reach out to the staff. Here's some information. Let us know if you ever have problems getting stuff. We'll bend over backwards for you. Like, I just want to create that list because I really think that'll help grow our business more so than, hey, we've attached this to an actor and that actor is going to sell the book just based on that actor. And the other thing I want to do, Jen, is the welcome pack is going to be like a letter that I like hand sign and give them a, their own retailer code. But also the idea is to create these tent cards. And what the tent cards are is, imagine like a card, like a place card you would put, like have your name on it. But the difference is it's going to have the logo of our series. And then it's going to have the log line, like 2 to 3 sentences about what the book's about. Because quite honestly, like where you can just slip it either on your, wherever. Because I mean, I haven't read all of our Scout books. Like, I'm behind. You just don't have the time. And I can't imagine you as a comic book shop owner, how much reading you have to do. Like, you just don't have enough time in the day. So if you gave some bullet points and some cheat sheets on a book, not only will it could maybe intrigue you to maybe put that to the top of your stack, but it'll help you and your employees sell some stuff. So I want to create this Dropbox folder that has a template where it's going to be like an Avery labeled template. We send them one. It's just like, listen, you can print your own. Here's what it is. You decide if you want it. Here's a Dropbox link. You can go there. So like sales ideas, that's going to help sell Scout books, don't you think?
I think so. I think those kinds of things are exceptionally helpful because even if I've managed to read all of the books, I'm not here 24 hours a day. Yep. So it's nice to have those little tools that just like, even if you like this, you'll like that, are super helpful. That's the way we used to do it in the music industry. And it's just like, you didn't even know what the sound was like. You just said, if you liked, Soundgarden, you'll like this. Then you know what you're getting into.
And the other thing, we're doing it for media and for Simon & Schuster. They call them one-pagers. And by the way, I use these one-pagers all the time in my finance job where, it'll be a particular investment and it's a one-page worth of like highlighted key points of why this is a good investment. So we already have to do it because this is what we do for our multimedia, where we share it with Hollywood. It's one page, basically the summary, a detailed summary of the story, like 2 or 3 paragraphs, maybe some review quotes, a couple pieces of art, and then the logo. Again, I want to make those available too, where you can just simply print it out on a one sheet and hand it to somebody as well for all of our books and have it a easily accessible, link to the retailer so they can do it. And I'm not talking about just books coming out, but also books that have already been out and eventually become trades or sets, etc. So these are the things that I really want to implement here in the next quarter, in the second quarter, but I'm always open. And I mean, they're basically, everybody who's listening is just having, like, this is what our phone conversation would be when I inevitably asked you this, Jen. Yep. Is there anything I can add to this program from a retailer point of view that you would think would behoove? Like, those are just some cool marketing sales things that are very low cost that could help. Is there any other ideas I'm not seeing that could help as well?
Connect one of your staff members, whoever these people are that you're going to add, connect specific ones to specific stores and have them be their person so that they, just like Boom had with Morgan, everyone wanted to call from Morgan because we knew that she was going to tell us some, lift us up and give us some positive stuff, and just was a very, we knew them as a person. So you get to know your person, they get to know you, and you like hearing from them on a regular basis. That kind of personal touch it can't be replaced for us or for you.
I think right now it's going to be myself and Richard just putting another hat and doing it, but yes, the idea is to train. But again, that's what I do. And if one thing I've learned from my training when I initially started as a stockbroker with Edward Jones was like time blocking. And you try to time block, and if you set aside a certain time per day and you make it as religious, like brushing your teeth, like you can do it, and you can always fall back on it too. If for some reason you get sidetracked, you can go back to the schedule and work it. No, I know we went a little over, but again, this has been awesome. Just again, behind the curtain, I should say. And I know I've actually been talking. I'm not angry, for those of you looking at my picture.
You just look concerned.
I do. I look very concerned. I'm concerned about everyone. Oh, that's great. Yes, with ADHD, it's awesome. I'll tell you. And not always do I follow it, but again, to have that like safety zone to go back on to the time block is so fantastic. And by the way, a lot of times things can get derailed, kind of like why you were dealing with a customer. I had somebody come in today, for my finance job. So it can mess up your time block, but then you can feel a little cozy inside where you're like, okay, I messed this up. I only have to reschedule this 1 hour instead of the whole day. It gets, it gets out of hand. But again, this is another great episode of I Must Ask You a Question with Jen and James. And Jen, thanks so much for your insight. And as always, happy selling. And we'll see everybody next week.
Bye, y'all.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.